when we, just because two themes, theological themes, both converge at one point, one event in Jesus' ministry, for example, it doesn't mean that those two themes are the same, and you keep doing this. You're arguing, like, when we were talking about when we were arguing whether he was justified in saying it is accomplished beforehand, that is one argument. You're giving a separate argument about the validity.
Okay, what is the point about John 17:4 you want to make?
Right.
Go on.
Well, the speculation I wanted to give, because I got nothing else, right? Yeah. I wanted to argue that you could say it is accomplished, and you said it's not fair, you can't say until the sacrifice is complete. But when you have, say, in the Old Testament, for example, when you have the testimony of people speaking because God has commanded something, even though it's not already been actualized, they speak in a way as if it already has been actualized because it is so certain to happen. Right? You say, for example, imagine the Queen commands something and you say it's done, despite the fact it's not already been done, right? You're saying it is so certain to happen that it is equivalently accomplished. In the same way, could it not be in John 17:4? That when he says it is accomplished, he's saying it is so certain to happen, the events are so readily set in place, nothing else can stand in the way of it.
You know what I would have said in that instance? I would have said almost accomplished. If something has not passed, then you can't call it accomplished. For example, listen to this. Listen to this. You know about prophecies?
Yeah.
Are prophecies certain to happen if it's from God?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you say the prophecies have all happened?
What do you mean?
Can you say, because the prophecies are certainly going to happen?
I can say linguistically, it's accepted in English language for me to say, it's done, it's all done.
So you say all, so wait. Would you actually believe, would you actually say such a thing that all the prophecies are now accomplished?
I wouldn't know it. Can I explain myself? I wouldn't say that.
Why not?
Because of the fact that it can lead to all this confusion, right? But it is valid to say that. It is not completely invalid.
So now that you know it will lead to confusion, yes, you wouldn't say it. Who's more clever, you or Jesus?
Jesus.
Right. So when God says in the New Testament, is it the New or the Old? I think in the New Testament, God is not the author of confusion.
Yeah.
Do you think He would actually allow confusion?
There's no confusion in the Bible.
I didn't ask you. I'm asking him. Stick to your lane.
I'm saying, how
would God allow confusion when He clearly says He will? This is not. God is not the author of confusion. Would He allow confusion?
Yeah, but you're misinterpreting author.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Author of confusion means he deliberately spins in and twists things, right? That's different.
No. That's not what confusion means. Confusion means when you have something, when you say something that is ambiguous or open to interpretation about certain main things. For example, if you were to believe in the Trinity, God would say, believe in one God. To me, that causes confusion. Well, there is. There's a reason in the entire Old and New Testament, there's no mention of the Trinity.
I don't think ambiguity is the same as author of confusion. Author of confusion seems deliberate instigation of the confusion.
No. If it's something ambiguous, it's a source of confusion.
That's different. It could be.
It's not different. It's the same.
It could lead to confusion, but it's not deliberately instigated by God for the sake of confusion. Those are two separate.
But confusion doesn't need to be deliberate.
That means that's what
Confusion doesn't need to be deliberate. Confusion can be accidental. Confusion can be because of your incomplete instructions. Confusion can be because of ambiguous statements and commands. So confusion doesn't need to be deliberate.
But when you brought up the verse of author of confusion insinuates deliberately.
No, I don't think so. You're speculating once again. I'm sorry to say that. If God, listen, if God gives you a clear instruction, yes, a clear command, then there is no room for confusion. Unless and until you're telling me God gives you a command which is deceptive. I.e., for example, if God wanted you to believe in a triune God, then He would actually tell you, no, believe only in one God. You see what I mean? It's not. I'm telling you the different scenarios, how you would get confused. And when Jesus, look, when Jesus tells you it's accomplished, the works that you have given me, not the works that you're going to give me. Okay? So it's very clear.
God can say something very clear and explicit, but humans in their fallibility and their own problems can still be confused and misinterpreted. Right?
Unless and until you're insincere, I would say, look, give me an example from Islam, something of a core belief. Well, I'm telling you. Give me something from Islam which is of the core belief in which the Muslims are confused. The Aqidah, core Aqidah. For example, belief in the oneness of God. Believing in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger of God. To us, this is the first pillar of Islam. Yes? No, you can't. The first pillar of Islam, yes, I don't want to start trying.
Want me to bring one example?
What barking?
Allah, His word came down as a perfect man.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that if this is the core belief, the first command of Islam, yes, the first pillar of Islam, then there is no confusion. Whether you're Shia, whether you're Sunni, this is something very clear. Whether even the ones who claim to be other denominations, even they are very clear about this. Now, what you're talking about, there are certain things which are ambiguous. I totally agree with that. But when it comes to the core belief, then God is very clear about this.
Okay, and what's your point?
My point is here. When Jesus said in John 17:4 that I have accomplished what my Father, what God has given me of His works, then it is very clear that at that point He actually meant that His mission is accomplished.
No.
I disagree.
No, it's
but I
not.
think, wait, can I just say?
Prove me otherwise.
I admitted to you multiple times, I don't know about this, I'm speculating. Did I not say that? Right?
Yes, you did.
Right. So, I humbly think you've quote-unquote beaten me in this argument. I'll accept that.
No, it's not about beating, it's understanding each other, that's all.
It's not about beating.
But I appreciate your humility.
I accept the fact you know more about it. I'll go away, research it, and that's it. That's all I can say. But
Fair enough.
but what I want to say is that
I remember you saying the same thing about Melchizedek
I don't
once. Have you done your homework?
Let him speak. Let him speak.
Melchizedek, do you remember? You said, I don't know much about it, I'm going to go and research
the
it.
high priest man.
This was like a few months ago, actually.
I researched it and then I forgot it, honestly.
You forgot it again? Oh my God.
I'm trying to juggle too much. But anyway, what I can
Anyway,
say
no
is,
problem.
I think that you have evidentially substantiated your argument, sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't think you've always demonstrated that it's logically necessitated sometimes for A to mean B, for example. And that was where I had
You're talking about logic now?
Yeah.
Okay, logically when this makes sense, I'll tell you why. Because God in the Old Testament, He says the Son is not accountable for the sin of the Father, and the Father is not accountable for the sin of the Son. And he even goes further to say that the wickedest of the wicked, yes, if they ask for God's forgiveness, if they repent to God, yes, I'm paraphrasing here, with sincerity, then their wickedness will be forgotten as if it did not happen. It is like the slate has been wiped clean. You see what I mean? So God in the Old Testament has been telling you, and you know, in that entire passage, there's no mention of any sacrifices.
Just speak
There's one point.
Okay? So what it tells us, what this tells us is that in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, there is a clear evidence that God is able to forgive sins.
Did Muhammad?
And if do you mind? It's very rude to interrupt when I'm talking to something. No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking. That is the reason I don't talk to you, because you don't have respect. So
When it
anyway,
comes to
Let me say this one thing. And then you bring it, you can make it.
anyway, what I'm telling you is this: if I'm rubbish, why standing here for half an hour?
just talk.
You like to listen to rubbish? It's nonsense these guys bring up on it. Anyway, so what I'm saying is this: if the Old Testament and the New Testament, both the entire Bible tells us that God is able to forgive sins, and you know this is the point that the Christians normally bring up as well, that Jesus is God because He was able to forgive sins. If that was the case, then why the need to shed blood of a human being or even animals? Why can't God just forgive? You see what I mean? So it actually agrees. That is the reason I think that Jesus meant when He said his
Talk to the people who knows.
Are you saying it is a no? Are you saying it is a no?
Address that point.
No, you can't. Yes? Stand in your lane.
No, if you
Stand in your
know,
lane.
you can ask, is there any Christian who can address this point?
I will ask whom I want. Right now I'm asking to him. It is very rude of you and the other guy to interrupt so many times.
Cannot come in.
Okay, so now,
No.
no you can't, I'm talking to the gentleman. I respect him more than you for a reason. Because he actually answers the question and he doesn't bring up, and he's humble enough to tell me when he doesn't know something. So that's the reason I would rather speak to him than guys like you and the other guy. So anyway, so what I'm saying is this, that this forgiveness is something, this is the ability and the attribute of God, that He has the ability to forgive. And I don't think spilling the blood of either human sacrifice or animal sacrifice is a requirement for your forgiveness. And this is the concept in Islam. We believe that God is able to forgive you without the shedding of blood of any innocent being, be it an animal or a human.
Okay.
going to say?
I disagree for a variety of reasons. But
You disagree about what?
About-
Human sacrifice or animal
about the
sacrifice?
human but that's a massive bit.
You don't think that's a human sacrifice in your case?
No. I think the whole thing about God's justice demands it and so on. But again, that's like a massive debate.
Why do you disagree? Tell me.
Honestly, I actually have to go like pretty soon. But
Okay,
I
go
don't
on.
get into it. But I happily will debate it at some point. But I've already been given enough
Fair enough.
to
Fair enough.
research for now. I'll
Fair
look up
enough.
the whole
You got your homework.
John 17 stuff to look into. But yeah.
All right.
That's fair.
All right. Thanks a lot. What's your name again?
Luca.
Luca. Very nice meeting you again.
Okay,
All right.
I'll listen in for a bit and then I'll head out to church.
Yeah, sure. Okay. You want to make a point? Go on now.
I want to make a point because when
Which
you
point are you going to make?
about the sins, forgiving, the sacrifice.
Okay. You heard my statement.
Yeah,
Okay. Are you going to respond to that?
Yes, I'm going to
Go on.
You have to understand.
It's too early, bro. Okay, sorry, just one sec, yeah? This guy's got the mics on me, I can't even speak to him. Okay, make a quick point because I need to go now. Go on, make a quick point.
You might just go because you
All
just
right.
want me to make it quick. It's not going to work.
I'll go then. no
But you
problem.
know the sacrifice
If you're going to make a point,
quickly.
no, if you're going to make a point, let me respond to that. Okay, go on.
The only reason God does not like the sacrifice of a human being, and that's clear.
Does not lack?
He doesn't like.
He doesn't like,
He doesn't like. He
Okay.
doesn't accept
Okay.
human sacrifice.
except Jesus.
But God, from the beginning,
Yeah.
you see, you have to look what was the cause of this sacrifice of his son. It goes back right to the beginning of the transgression of the law of God, of Adam and Eve. Because as far as we know, humanity became mortal because of the transgression of the law of God from Adam and Eve. Man became mortal.
What is the evidence for that? He was immortal.
It is in Genesis.
Show it to me.
Okay.
Where does it say God created them immortal? Where does it say that?
Man was intended to be eternal.
Where does it say that?
Because when
Show me in the Bible. Because right now you're
have you got
speculating.
time to stay or you want to dash out?
No, I have time for you to bring up the evidence. How long will it take?
Give me. It's in Genesis.
He's saying that man was created eternal and immortal from the very beginning. Has any Christian got evidence for that?
Listen. When God,
Show me the evidence.
sorry,
I'm waiting for
God,
you.
I can read the whole thing.
Read it, then read it. Go on, please.
It's going to take time.
How long do you need?
It's not an important.
How long do you need?
No. It's very important. It's very important.
Okay, anyway, if you can't find
Can
it.
you read in Genesis when God caused a man?
Okay. All right, guys, I have to go now. Thanks a lot.
How you going when I'm
No,
coming?
we're going to read now. We're going to read for you.
You need to learn to respect original.
Listen.
Put me on the talk.
In the Quran, right?
We don't believe human sacrifice.